On this edition of the program, Jimmy Kimmel is gone, at least for the time being. Is this a First Amendment killer? Trump's entire economic strategy heads to the Supreme Court, and we have the date that will happen. And all the scuttlebutt on what is happening not only in the New York City mayoral race, but also in the midterms behind the scenes. A practitioner's perspective. Michael Cohen, the man who wrote the book on the modern political campaign, joins us. It's all coming up.
The following is brought to you by Just Another Pilot.
Hello and welcome everybody to the Politics podcast for September 19th, 2025. Your old pal Justin Robert Young joining you to remind you that you should indeed remember the 21st night of September. We'll be dancing the night away. But that's this weekend. Let's get into what is happening today, and it's a big one. Big news stories that break late in the week. You'll love to see it because it gives me something to talk about during this episode. Jimmy Kimmel, currently on indefinite leave. What happened, why it involves Brandon Carr of the FCC, and what I think is going to happen going forward, as well as my own opinions. I have those too, you know. I'm not just an unbiased truth angel. We also have updates on one of the oldest members of the House possibly being exited stage left. Donald Trump's tariff strategy, the backbone of his entire economic agenda, going to the Supreme Court, and Erika Kirk, the widow of Charlie Kirk, officially assuming her leadership role at Turning Point Action USA. We will be soon joined by Michael Cohen, the author of The Modern Political Campaign. And I have great news for you, friends. If you like my voice, and I hope you do, you listen to this show, and every time that we have had Michael Cohen on and I have plugged his book, Modern Political Campaigns, and you're like, yeah, maybe one day, I like this show enough. Maybe one day I will read Michael Cohen's book if you enjoy it. Well, I got great news for you. You can now listen to his book. You can download on Audible the Modern Political Campaign's audiobook as read by me. Oh yeah, baby. I got into my recording booth and I read that whole gosh darn thing. Holy moly, was it a pain in the neck? But I'm happy that it's done. I'm happy that you have a chance to listen to it. So please download it right now. Literally, unless you are driving, I want you to stop, especially if you have an Audible subscription. Those credits are sitting there anyway. Just go ahead and burn a credit. Go ahead and get that book. And I'd like you to do it right now because I might piss some of you off here. So please do it now before you get mad at me. Don't take this out on Michael Cohen. He probably agrees with you. Okay. Let's begin with Jimmy Kimmel. We're going to start this at the beginning. We're going to walk through it linearly, and then I will give you my opinions. Let's begin with what happened earlier this week on Jimmy Kimmel's program during his monologue. This is a clip that wound up starting it all.
He had some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it. In between the finger pointing, there was grieving. On Friday, the White House flew the flags at half-staff, which got some criticism. But on a human level, you can see how hard the president is taking this.
My condolences on the loss of your friend Charlie Kirk. May I ask, sir, personally, how are you holding up over the last day and a half, sir?
I think very good. And by the way, right there, you see all the trucks? They've just started construction of the new ballroom for the White House, which is something they've been trying to get, as you know, for about 150 years. And it's going to be a beauty.
Yes. He's at the fourth stage of grief, construction. Demolition, construction. This is not how an adult grieves the murder of someone he called a friend. This is how a 4-year-old mourns a goldfish, okay?
All right, so I'm not even going to give you an opinion on that. I want you to listen to that. And I want you to know whatever you think in your head about that clip. And then on Wednesday, this happened. This on the Benny Johnson podcast, Brendan Carr of the Federal Communications Commission had this to say.
You know, when you look at the conduct that has taken place by Jimmy Kimmel, it appears to be some of the sickest conduct possible. As you've indicated, there are, avenues here for the FCC. So there are some ways in which I need to be a little bit careful, because we could be called ultimately to be a judge on some of these claims that come up. But I don't think this is an isolated incident. I mean, you go back to Representative Swalwell, and he had a tweet out last week where he was saying that, emphasizing that Charlie Kirk's killer was a straight white male from a Republican family that voted for Donald Trump. In some quarters, there's a very concerted effort to try to lie to the American people about the nature, as you indicate, of one of the most significant, newsworthy public interest acts that we've seen in a long time. And what appears to be an action by Jimmy Kimmel to play into that narrative that this was somehow a MAGA or Republican motivated person. If that's what happened here with his conduct, that is really, really sick. And I've been very clear from the moment that I have become chairman of the FCC, I want to reinvigorate the public interest. And what people don't understand is that the broadcasters, and you've gotten this right, are entirely different than people that use other forms of communication. They have a license granted by us at the FCC, and that comes with it an obligation to operate in the public interest. And we can get into some ways that we've been trying to reinvigorate the public interest and some changes that we've seen. But frankly, when you see stuff like this, I mean, look, we can do this the easy way or the hard way. These companies can find ways to change conduct, to take action, frankly, on Kimmel, or, there's going to be additional work for the FCC ahead.
Brendan Carr being very, very, very specific that he is disgusted by Jimmy Kimmel and that the FCC does have the ability to prosecute into the public interest, and that if licensed television stations that are given the privilege to broadcast over the air by the FCC are not fulfilling their duty to the public interest, that the FCC can and will take some kind of remedy. He doesn't spell it out, but he certainly leaves his thumb on the scale. Now, what I found interesting is that was the clip that went viral, and not the end of his segment with Benny Johnson, which I found to be more interesting considering what happened. Let's play that clip.
Over the years, the FCC has stepped back from enforcing it, and I don't think it's been to the benefit of anybody. Just look at the credibility of these legacy media. It's absolutely through the floor. They used to be able to say at least they were more trustworthy than Congress, but now they're even less trustworthy than Congress. And so I think as a business matter for them, something has to change. And at the FCC, we need to reinvigorate this. So again, there's actions that we can take on licensed broadcasters. And frankly, I think that it's really sort of past time that a lot of these licensed broadcasters themselves push back on Comcast and Disney and say, listen, we are going to preempt. We are not going to run Kimmel anymore until you straighten this out, because we licensed broadcaster, are running the possibility of fines or license revocations from the FCC if we continue to run content that ends up being a pattern of news distortion. So I think, again, Disney needs to see some change here, but the individual licensed stations that are taking their content, it's time for them to step up and say, this, garbage to the extent that that's what comes down the pipe in the future, isn't something that we think serves the needs of our local communities. But this sort of status quo is obviously not acceptable where we are.
You believe that what Jimmy Kimmel said rises to the level of news distortion?
Look, again, the FCC could be called upon to be an ultimate judge in that, but at this point, I think it's clear. It appears to be clear that you could make a strong argument that this is sort of an intentional effort to mislead the American people about a very core, fundamental fact to a very important matter. At the end of the day, if we do get called upon to cast a vote on this, Disney will have a chance to put in their arguments and explain it. But this is a very, very serious issue right now for Disney.
Yeah. Brendan Carr specifically spelling out that it is the individual licensed stations that should be pushing back against their network, ABC, because it is the individual licensed stations that face FCC scrutiny. Now, ABC and Comcast, as we are talking about here with Kimmel, do own many of their own stations, but not all of them. There are several independent groups that own them. Keep that in mind, because everything wound up exploding when this happened. We're going to read now from Deadline. Jimmy Kimmel learned in a phone call Wednesday afternoon that his 22-year late-night run at ABC was put on hold, at least for now. Deadline understands that the person on the other end of the line was Disney Entertainment co-chairman Dana Waldron. Just hours after Kimmel was set to start filming the show, Disney's top TV exec had a thoughtful conversation, quote unquote, with the comedian, per sources. I wonder which side gave Deadline these sources. I'm going to add editorially. Psst, psst, psst. It was the studio. This came after the decision was made by Walden and CEO Bob Iger. Okay, they certainly seem to know about how this happened. Quote, both sides were businesslike and polite, said one source. Walden and Iger made the decision to preempt, quote unquote, Jimmy Kimmel Live, quote unquote, indefinitely to tamp down controversy after FCC chairman Brendan Carr called Kimmel's comments about Charlie Kirk's killer some of the sickest stuff possible. Kimmel made it clear he was unwilling to apologize for the remarks, according to insiders, again, probably from the studio, and was going to direct the focus on Donald Trump's most fervent supporters, who have been in an uproar since Monday night when Kimmel said what he said. We hear he was planning to call out some of these supporters while clarifying his comments. It's unclear exactly which comments were considered inflammatory, but sources say the phrase, one of them, has been taken out of context. Disney felt that if he doubled down, the company would have been forced to make a more drastic decision on Jimmy Kimmel Live's future instead of the announced preemption. The company hopes it will be able to have Kimmel back on the air soon, per sources, but whether Kimmel himself is willing to do so is unclear. ABC on Wednesday advised its stations that Jimmy Kimmel Live will be off through Thursday of this week, replaced by Celebrity Family Feud, with further guidance to follow. Lot to take in there. Number one, I am again going to reiterate that places like Deadline and the Hollywood Reporter are the place that the boss puts out the boss's version of the story. I have no doubt that that came from about as high up in Disney as you could imagine. And what did Disney want you to know? Disney wanted you to know that they were saving Jimmy Kimmel from himself. That Jimmy Kimmel had gone over the line, and if he went even further, then there would be no coming back, so they had no choice but to pull him back. Obviously, Brendan Carr is mentioned, as you heard, referencing the clips that you saw. What was unmentioned is that two affiliate networks pulled their airing of Jimmy Kimmel Live, meaning that in the markets that these places serve, they would not be playing the Jimmy Kimmel Live show. So if you were in, for example, Nexstar and Sinclair were the two affiliate broadcasting networks that decided to do this. For example, WTNH in Hartford, New Haven, Connecticut, not getting Jimmy Kimmel Live, even if it was airing, which obviously it wasn't. Sinclair, which is the largest holding of ABC affiliates, followed suit, and they were even more full-throated with it, saying that Jimmy Kimmel would not be allowed back on their air unless he fully apologized and donated to Turning Point USA. Something I can't imagine that Jimmy Kimmel would do. This has resulted in a tremendous firestorm. Not only was social media ablaze over last night, but also Capitol Hill today. Congress is in session, and not only has the Senate wrote saying that Brendan Carr should be preserving and saving any and all communications that he made internally about Jimmy Kimmel, but also a lot of on-mic comments. Eric Swalwell wore a Jimmy Kimmel hat on CNN, and Jasmine Crockett said, "Free Jimmy Kimmel." The understanding from their line of thinking and that is that this is a chilling free speech moment. That a federal agency reached out to silence a dissenting voice against him, one of the most prominent dissenting voices against Donald Trump and his administration, Jimmy Kimmel. And there is no doubt that Jimmy Kimmel is a consistent and vociferous voice against Donald Trump. We've talked about it a lot on this show, that in many ways, he is the originator of clapter. We had our friend Jack Allison on many, many years ago. He left his job as a writer on that show because he realized that they were no longer writing jokes at the end of their monologues. They were instead writing political points, and they were political points that he was increasingly not agreeing with as somebody who was more on the progressive left. So, is this a tremendous chilling of free speech? Is the First Amendment dead? This is just my opinion, right? So take it for what you will. But I will say that Brendan Carr is emblematic of a lot of people in the Trump administration. And that is that everybody wants to be like Daddy. They all want to go out in the media and make hot takes that shape the news stream because they know that Trump does it, and they know that if they succeed, that Trump will like them more. He will shout them out and say, "You did a good job. You prosecuted the case for us in the public square, and for that, I am tremendously grateful." Just don't do it about issues that Donald Trump doesn't like. Like before, the Epstein stuff, talk all about the Epstein stuff. Now, no. Do not talk about the Epstein stuff. No. I was not in love with Brendan Carr going as far as he did in terms of talking about Jimmy Kimmel. The idea of threatening, even obliquely, and having listened to that clip a few times now, I can see the case that he was trying to be more reserved than his words came off as. But still, he is an FCC official. He's the head of that organization, and his words do carry. And if he is threatening people, then those threats should, and I do believe in this case, are being taken very, very seriously. That can be true. And we can understand that battles between networks and affiliates have gone on for many, many years. And my gut reaction to Nexstar and Sinclair's statements was that Jimmy Kimmel has probably been a problem source in their relationship between their affiliates and the network for years. In fact, when I was listening to Carr at the end of that Benny Johnson clip, I would not be shocked if representatives from those networks specifically, or those affiliate networks specifically, have told Carr, look, can you just please mention stuff about the public interest so we can go back to ABC and say, you are going to get us in FCC trouble if you do not knock this off, if you do not rein him in? Wouldn't be shocking. Now, why? Why would these affiliate networks be mad about carrying Jimmy Kimmel? Well, I'll tell you why. Of the 28 affiliates that Nexstar, the first affiliate network to drop out on this, of those 28 markets, you've got 2 that on any level voted for Kamala Harris over Donald Trump. That is Hartford, New Haven, and Burlington, Vermont. And even then, it's not by much. It's by like 8 points, 7 points. You then have swing districts like the greater Albany area, the greater Syracuse area, Richmond, Virginia, Nashville, Tennessee, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, Rockford, Illinois, Utica, Rome. You then have more solidly red areas, Watertown, New York, Erie, Pennsylvania, Augusta, Georgia, Knoxville, Tennessee, Salt Lake City, Sioux City, Iowa. And then you've got deep red districts, Dothan, Alabama, Panama City, Florida, Midland, Odessa, Texas, Billings, Montana, Clarksburg, Weston, West Virginia, and Wheeling, West Virginia / Steubenville, Ohio. Those aren't all of them, but by and large, of Nexstar's entire network, there are about 38%, if you're going to average them all together, 38% of their viewers voted for Kamala Harris, and 60 voted for President Trump. These are rough numbers, but I do think that they are directionally correct. And I very much believe that this is emblematic of something that I think is very, very serious in this country. And that is that we are so siloed. We have no idea the capacity for why somebody on the other side, in the other media silo, would be grieving the way they are about somebody like Charlie Kirk. Because if you are not in the conservative media world, then you've likely only seen clips of Charlie Kirk when it is prepared for you by people who are looking to take advantage of you in your silo. And they are likely meant to show and tell a story of Charlie Kirk being either opportunist, racist, homophobic, or all three. So when he dies, no matter how tragic, you have a hard time connecting to the idea that people are going to be that upset. That is not so on the conservative side. And I would imagine that a lot of those people are in those media markets. And I don't know if you've noticed, but broadcast television is not exactly the money printing factory that it once was. So for whatever reason, if you have affiliate networks that are revolting against ABC and they are saying, for the love of God, do something about him right now, because I got angry viewers that are yelling and screaming at me, and they are looking to fall off, no matter how small these media markets are, they are all part of the rate card that ABC sells advertising against. And when Sinclair drops out as well, which has larger media markets, up to and including Washington, D.C., for the record, well, that's a bigger chunk of what advertisers are expecting to get in terms of bang for the buck when they decided to commit to putting their product on Jimmy Kimmel Live. So I don't want to remove the agency of these affiliate networks. And I'm not the only one saying this. A lot of people are saying this, up to and including our friend Dan Turrentine, who is, tried and true blue Democrat. He pointed out on Twitter today, this reminds me a lot of the battle to replace Johnny Carson. Everybody in LA, everybody in New York thought that the hip, cutting edge David Letterman was going to get that slot. Johnny liked him better after all. How did it change? Jay Leno went and talked to the affiliates. And he made the case that David Letterman appealed to the coasts. He appealed to New York and LA. But these affiliate stations aren't in New York and LA. And it was Jay Leno that would pledge a commitment to doing a show that would be popular with their viewership. There is a history here. And I don't think that it should be totally thrown out because Brendan Carr likes to do media hits. Not to say that that was good behavior. Not to say that even he should not be taken seriously. I do think he should be taken seriously. But all of this fell in such a way that I can't believe that Nexstar and Sinclair were immediately jawboned into flipping their position. At the very minimum, I think they were waiting for an excuse to do it. And to be totally honest, I think Disney is in a situation now that they are looking to be rid of their Kimmel problem. Jimmy Kimmel has done that show for 22 years. Jimmy Kimmel is a very important name in the history of broadcast television because he brought to ABC something that they had never had before. NBC obviously had The Tonight Show. When Letterman did bolt NBC because Leno got that, he created The Late Show on CBS. But ABC was in the news game in that time slot. That was right up until Jimmy Kimmel began that show so many years ago, 22 to be exact. He is somebody that's pioneered internet viral videos, using his platform to do exactly that. He's been unafraid, much like his hero Howard Stern, to be combative. And like his hero Howard Stern, he has become more of a party line Democratic liberal and more of a mouthpiece to that respect. I don't know if Jimmy Kimmel, who long ago married one of his writers and made her the head writer and co-producer of that program, is going to have anyone tell him anything. And so when ABC and Disney comes out and says, we're looking to have Jimmy Kimmel back on, we're going to get him back on the schedule. We're expecting him to be at work on Monday. In fact, I'm going to tell you how this is going to play out. You ready? Justin Gerbs Stradamus, get ready for this. Here's how it's going to play out. ABC is going to say, we are expecting Jimmy Kimmel on air on Monday, and we are expecting him to address the controversy, and we are expecting him to apologize. And they are going to dare Jimmy Kimmel to quit. And I think he will. ABC wants Jimmy Kimmel to violate his contract because they would like to be out of that business. Now, this will probably come down to a settlement. Jimmy Kimmel's got a good agent, baby. But I think ABC is ready to be out of the fully partisan politics game, which brings me to my last point. The biggest thing that I've taken away from this is that the times, they are a-changing. Because let's imagine the most sinister way that you could look at Brendan Carr's comments. That he came out and said, change your tune or else. If this were 2017, do you think that ABC or Disney would have blinked twice to take that fight? That they wouldn't have relished going to the mat with the FCC? That they wouldn't have made a big spectacle of it? That they wouldn't have had Bob Iger himself out on television saying that we are fighting for our ability to keep our bold, truth-telling voices on television? Seems like something that would have happened back then, because back then it was popular. Is it popular now? I don't know. The ratings say no. All of the outlets that made their bones in 2017 being hashtag resistance mouthpieces have withered since the 2024 election in attention, in ratings, and I believe in relevance. And so, yeah, I wouldn't even dispute that ABC and Disney are caving. They're caving to the affiliates. They are caving to Brendan Carr's Benny Johnson appearance, or even caving to the FCC itself, however you want to phrase it. But I don't know if it's because of a fear of an authoritarian so much as it might just be giving their people what they want, because now they want something else. This is your update, brought to you by TakePoliticsSeriously.com. That's where you need to go if you want to get 2 bonus episodes of the show each and every week. We've got Listener Appreciation Month coming up all October. We've been getting names in the comments all day today, and I'm reaching out to as many of them as I can. We're going to try and book people that either haven't been on the show, people who haven't been back on the show in a while. We'll get them. We'll have them on. We'll have a lot of interviews in October, even if it kills me, considering I'm just realizing now that I'm out of town for a little bit of October. But you want to know what? The show must go on now, doesn't it? Let's go ahead and get to some stories we don't have a chance to get to in this episode. Otherwise, Eleanor Norton, 88, faces her toughest challenge in decades as D.C. Council member Robert White announced that he will challenge her in a 2026 Democratic primary bid for her congressional seat. Norton, who has been in office since 1990, has drawn scrutiny over her health and visibility amid federal pressure on D.C. law enforcement. She vows to run for another term, even though longtime advisor, one of our faves here on this show, Auntie Donna Brazil, urged retirement today publicly. Takes a lot for her to say that Eleanor Norton should step down. White is a progressive and former Norton aide, argues that the district needs more energetic representation. He joins DNC official Kenny Zalson in the race, but he is the first candidate with broad citywide stature to confront Norton in 35 years. Youth movement in the Democratic Party. Probably overdue. President Trump's economic agenda faces 2 major Supreme Court tests this fall. Justices will hear arguments November 5th on whether tariffs under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act were an unlawful overreach after an appeals court struck them down but allowed them to remain temporarily. Separately, Trump is asking the court to let him fire Fed Governor Lisa Cook, who he removed amid allegations of mortgage fraud as part of his effort to control the Fed. Both cases could reshape U.S. trade and monetary policy. Trump has warned that reversing his tariffs would endanger the nation's economy. It would certainly take the bullets out of the gun that he has been wielding. You know, all of the deals that we have talked about, trade deals with the EU, with Japan, they're memorandums of agreement. They are not pen to paper on real deals. Those are being worked out. They are being crafted, as we are told, at least. But you got to imagine that the international eyes are looking at the Supreme Court. Indications seem to be that the Supreme Court will uphold Trump's IEPA powers, but we'll have plenty of conversation about that as it comes around. Finally, Erika Kirk, widow of slain activist Charlie Kirk, has been unanimously elected CEO of Turning Point USA, the conservative youth group her husband founded in 2012. Charlie Kirk's activism helped Republicans make major inroads with young voters in 2024, and Erika's task was sustaining that momentum. The board said Charlie has expressed his wish for her succession. Erika, a former Miss Arizona and podcaster, vowed to continue his mission with renewed resolve. Turning Point has seen surging interest since Kirk's death, now boasting 900 college and 1,200 high school chapters. His public memorial is scheduled for this weekend in Arizona. Donald Trump and J.D. Vance, president and vice president, in case you haven't heard, are scheduled to be the key addressers along with Kirk. It's going to take place at the Cardinals Stadium, just to show you how much love there is for Charlie Kirk. Jeez Louise. There was no other way that was going to happen, by the way. Erika Kirk was very involved in Turning Point USA, and if it wasn't going to be her for one reason or another, I don't think that organization would have survived. It would have been pulled apart by various different interests. In fact, I'm going to take this perspective on the Charlie Kirk thing. I haven't heard really anybody talk about it, but if you just look at what's happening with the Republican coalition right now and how hard Charlie Kirk was working to keep it together, his death may well be most affected by how fragmented this newly married coalition on the Republican right goes its separate ways. Because right now there's a lot of people that don't agree with a lot of stuff on the right. And Charlie Kirk, by and large, got along with all of them. And now they're arguing whether or not Mossad killed him. TakePoliticsSeriously.com, where you need to go if you want to get 2 bonus episodes of this show. And now, the man who wrote the book on the modern political campaign, and that you can listen to me talk about it. When in this interview, we recorded it right before it wound up getting approved. So we're going to talk about it like it's in the future. It's not. It's not. Download it right now. Modern Political Campaigns on Audible. Here's Michael Cohen. I would like to welcome back to the program the man who wrote the book on the modern political campaign, Mr. Michael Cohen. I want to break down some stuff that's happening behind the scenes right now, because we're at a very interesting time for the midterms. A lot of bubbles, maybe a few splashes, but it means a lot of stuff is happening behind the scenes that I wanted a practitioner's perspective on. Welcome back to the show, Michael.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. It's great to see you.
And by the way, I am the man who read the book on the modern political campaign. Hopefully
Indeed, you
available
are.
on Audible soon.
Soon. We are halfway through the process
Soon,
of them. Last night we got good news. They said that they approved the metadata. So now they just need to approve a couple of other pieces of this. And I know they say it's 10 days, but there's like a 10 days that I'm aware of as a calendar. There are work days.
Yeah.
So that'd be on Thursday. And then there might be Amazon extra days, which apparently is the inverse of how long it takes for me to order soap to be delivered to me.
This has happened every time that I've worked with Audible's independent publishing tool. Sisyphus got his rock up the hill faster than they approve things. But it will be available for you guys, and trust me,
I can't thank you enough. Yeah, you will be aware, and you will also be thankful because it's the voice you know and the voice you love. It is Justin Robert Young.
And it is
the voice inside my head as I write the book.
And it is partly why I wanted to come on, because I just, a lot of the book is talking about things that are not the glory moments. In fact, like vanishingly few words, expertly written when they do, but it's less on the idea of, oh, you find the one piece of brilliant opposition at the 11th hour and you totally turn all the stuff that
cinematic
that we fetishize in the media. Really, the biggest thing here is a lot of blocking and tackling, a lot of research that happens beforehand, and setting your priors, building your boat that you are going to push out into the water, knowing that whatever holes are in that boat at the time that you push it out, that you don't fix them. Like that you can mitigate it, you can do some stuff, but that's going to be what it is. And so with that, I want to run a few races by you. A few are coming down to the wire, but if you were kind of beginning right now, and I want to start in my home state of Texas, where there is a very interesting race in the Senate on the Republican side. There's actually going to be an interesting Democratic primary too, because it feels like the national party, the national donors have lost faith in Colin Allred, and now they're putting their
as you have, by the way.
I have lost faith in Colin Allred.
Yes.
Well, yeah. If I were to choose between Colin Allred or James Tallarico, I would go with the guy who hasn't said God is non-binary.
I mean, that's not exactly a really great message for Texas.
I'll put it this way. In my mind, I think Colin Allred with a few super candid interviews where he does some strategic position shifting, I would take over James Tallarico. I think Colin Allred can go to the center more than James Tallarico can. And
that's fair. And that's where they need to be, of course.
Well, that's where a Texas Democrat needs to be. If you want to win
30 years,
you need to be
what are you doing?
Straight down the line, faith, family, and football, Second Amendment guy that believes in abortion, that believes in civil services, that believes in all these other things that Democrats believe in, and can take 80-20 issues there, not necessarily being, Tallarico to me feels like a candidate that is built in a lab by New York and California donors who are like, oh, Texas, they love God. Give them the God guy from Austin. And it's like, Austin is the cool blue center of a very, very red state. Like, I don't know if he speaks to the kind of people in the suburbs of Dallas and Houston and San Antonio and on the border that he really needs to if a Democrat's going to win. Anyway, bonus punditry for him.
He's New York's version of what a Democrat should be in Texas. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Which is not what a Texas Democrat needs to be for actual Texans that are going to vote for
to actually win anything statewide. Yeah. So let's talk about Paxton.
Although maybe I will say a good primary with a lot of money going back and forth, I think would be a good iron sharpens iron for both of them. I think that's a good thing for them. They should. I think Colin Allred should know what it's like to attack somebody on the progressive left, because it'll be better for him. It'll make him look more centrist, which is, I think, what a Texas Democrat needs. But I don't want to talk about that. I want to talk about the Republican side. Very interesting. Ken Paxton, notable challenger for Senate. MAGA diehard. He has been a Trump loyalist through and through. He is the Attorney General of Texas. He has become famous, was famous back in the day for filing lawsuits against Barack Obama, became a MAGA guy, filed the lawsuits during the 2020 election recount. Anything that Donald Trump wanted, he is happy to do. He is now challenging John Cornyn, who is not on the outs of MAGA per se, but he co-signed on the red flag laws. He's a little bit more McConnell-y than people in the meta want. And then meanwhile, you also have Wesley Hunt, that's kind of, an ascendant Texas Republican, probably at some point is going to have a serious challenge for Senate. Is this the time? ? This world. What are the calls that are happening right now in this primary? Who's calling who? Who's sending threatening text messages to who? What is happening behind the scenes?
This is a fun one. And this is obviously why this is why we're talking about this. This is the fun one. Yeah, because Wesley Hunt is the person that they would really like, but they're not sure if he's ready.
Who is they? Who is they?
The party apparatchiks. I mean,
Okay.
the people in Texas, people in DC, like they feel like he could do it, but they feel this sort of loyalty to Paxton because Paxton was MAGA before MAGA was cool.
Yeah.
And so when you're looking at this, you're saying, okay, well, Paxton has raised a bunch of money. They know who he is in Texas. He's, by the way, winning the race right now.
He is polling
Okay.
ahead until a few polls that have come out that have shown Cornyn up, but that was only after Wesley Hunt started putting up ads for a House seat that he is going to win by 35 points, which certainly
honestly,
looked like it could be a Senate ad.
Yeah, and honestly, when you're looking at this, I mean, I trust Echelon and other pollsters on the right, and Echelon's terrific. And the last poll that they had was, they had him by 42-37. There were a lot of undecideds, so it was a fluid race.
Yes,
but it's really at this point Paxton's to lose. And so if you are GOP, you're not saying, well, I'm going to stomp on this guy now who is winning the race because we don't think he's going to be great to somehow win it in Texas, when in reality, they feel really great about Texas every day of the week, incling Sunday, especially on God-giving Sunday. So, especially
when the Cowboys win.
Yeah, well, they have more faith in Paxton than they do in the Cowboys at this point, as should everybody. But the idea here is that if somehow Paxton does stumble and there is, a cinematic moment where there is, the thing that kills Paxton, or if Cornyn and Paxton debate and Paxton somehow, gets beat, well, Wesley Hunt is around, and open for business. The thing with Cornyn, though, is that Cornyn is not nearly as bad as McConnell because he can actually function as a human being right now.
Yeah.
So physically
and he's running for re-election, which McConnell is not currently.
Right. And he is actually running for re-election. He has been generally a good Republican. There have been gaps. And so there are always like these sort of maximalist people within the MAGA party, which is essentially, if you are not 100% for you, then you're somehow a crazy raging liberal, who's one step away from assassinating Charlie Kirk. And so, the thing that they haven't done to him yet is get him to the point where he's totally unpalatable within the primary. And so I think the story that Cornyn is walking around saying is like, look, if Paxton wins, we're in trouble here. The Democrats are going to nominate somebody. They're going to be excited.
Let's unpack that for a second on Paxton's liabilities, because Paxton is very popular amongst MAGA for being the guy who does the thing, who files the lawsuit, blah, blah, blah. And he got caught up in a corruption scandal that was very well publicized throughout Texas a year and a half ago, because he was dallying around with a mistress that he was using public funds to put up for her apartment, and he was cutting deals with this real estate guy. Then his wife, who's a public figure herself, also a member of state legislature here in Texas, divorces him on biblical grounds in the lawsuit, not a generalization.
No,
that is what she said in the lawsuit. Yeah. And it comes out this week or last week, I forget when this broke, that it's because Paxton was cheating on her with a Christian influencer. So that is going to be messy. That is going to be public. I'm sure that was leaked out there by the Cornyn campaign to dirty him up.
Why wouldn't you, if you were the ex-wife, by the way, leak it to the Cornyn campaign?
I can't imagine that she's looking to do that man any favors, considering how many times that that he has embarrassed her publicly.
This is what we call in the business leverage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the question is, all right, like what you saw before was Cornyn was lagging in the polls. Paxton was beating him by like 10, 12. And then at that point, the question, but I heard the rumors that were whispered around Capitol Hill, which means it was coming from those power structures, the Senate funding apparatus power structures, was that, might be time for John to retire. And then Wesley Hunt gets in. Hunt is MAGA enough. You're never going to deny Ken Paxton the Trump endorsement. He's going to get the Trump endorsement. What you're hoping for is the double endorsement, which Trump has done in the past, is that he endorses both. And then at that point, it's a jump ball for the activists to play around with. But now that polling has gotten tighter. Now Cornyn's not losing by 12. He's losing by 4 or 5. And the Cornyn camp came out and wrote to Wesley Hunt's donors, and they were like, look, knock it off. Cornyn's not dropping out. He's not retiring. You're going to have your time, but it's not now. And it is, you need to take a step back.
Well, and on top of that, Cornyn is officially old. And, he can easily mentor Hunt on the way up. Let Hunt have a congressional seat. Back him when it matters. If Hunt comes out to endorse and everyone has the kumbaya, it helps Cornyn. It helps Hunt. It's good for business. It's good for biblical.
All right, so you're in the room
well.
on Capitol Hill, and you are with the powers that be, and you got to tell sitting Senator John Cornyn that the senior senator from the state of Texas. How do you think he takes it?
Oh, no. The senior senator is the one who's saying this to young MAGA boy who wants to have this job. He's saying, no, son, I'm going to be here for one more term because I'm not going to let this jerk.
Oh, gotcha. This will be 6 years.
It's legitimately the exact opposite of what you were just saying. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Look, I mean, everyone should know, by the way, that Justin, has had his daughter has had ear infection. He's been sleeping, not as well, and so he needs to catch up. That's true.
Sorry, I have my listening comprehension skills aren't.
You're good. But great. By the way, my AirPod 3s are coming on Friday, so maybe you'll hear me actually better on Monday. We do this again because I'm blaming it on the old 3-year-old AirPods. But anyway, I know. Or you blame your kids because that's what we do. But
that's it.
But anyway, the point being is, I think that what's happening is it's actually the downward pressure. It's more likely that the downward pressure is happening than the upward pressure, because I think that for Cornyn, he just wants to beat this guy, punch him back into biblical oblivion, and then he'll say, "Hey, you know what, Wesley? 6 years from now, this job's yours. Spend a couple of terms in the lower chamber." Get to know everybody, get to know MAGA Mike and everybody else, build up your ability to go ahead and raise money so that you can win this thing, so that you don't have to run against some crazy, left-handed liberal with Beto as a name or something else, some version of Beto. And this could be your thing for life. So I think that's essentially what Cornyn is doing, as well as his team is saying to them, son, hang out. It'll be here for you.
And they can agree that they don't like Paxton, which is
right.
Pretty clear.
Which is really what's on the table right now, because it's not like Paxton is going to drop out for Hunt. It's not like Cornyn is going to drop out for Wesley. And so, this leaves him with the opportunity to really pick the right horse. If he picks, of course, Cornyn and Cornyn loses, then he's persona non grata, and, maybe he runs for governor someday. But, maybe not.
Yeah. But I can understand. It's hard. I would imagine it's hard for a politician that gets to a level like Wesley Hunt is, where it's like, how many windows do you get to do the thing where you're looked at as somebody who is ascended? This is a fickle world. It is a fickle world where buzz and media and at any moment, Wesley Hunt is pissing off the booker at Fox News away from not being the kind of high profile guy that he is now. He's very charismatic, good looking dude, beautiful family, which he posted the day that Ken Paxton got divorced, which
reminder, I'm married and my wife likes me.
And I
haven't cheated on her. Yeah,
exactly. My hot wife and our adorable kids are really great. Not like whatever the hell is happening in Ken Paxton's life right now.
Right.
I could understand from his perspective where it's like, hey, I don't know. I don't know what it's going to look like 6 years from now. I don't know. Ted Cruz isn't retiring in the next 3 cycles. Cornyn would be the one to do it. And so
Ted Cruz is leaving for Cancun in a box. I mean, he's going to have that forever. He's going to have that thing forever.
What was fascinating, the reason why I wanted to lead off with this is I felt like there was a little mini primary that happened over the last month where the Senate Leadership Fund was like, all right, we're going to peel off a little money. We're going to put you up on television talking about how great you are and how much you love Donald Trump and how much you are a steady hand and everybody knows don't change your horse when things are working, blah, blah, blah. And we're going to poll every week and we're going to see whether or not that moves the numbers. Because if they don't, then it might be time for you to go to the home, old man.
Yeah, well, it also comes down to the idea, too, is that Cornyn has been essentially a system quarterback. He has really been the kind of member who plays well within the club. And also when he lost gracefully to Thune, supported Thune, who beat him. For leader, and he lost leader. So they feel like, hey, you know what? He's not a bad guy. We like this guy. It's not Ted Cruz. We actually like Cornyn, so we'd like him to be around, right? And so we'd rather have this guy than the other guy who's running against him. So it was actually a very easy calculus politically as well as personally, and also loyalty. It does matter within that club. And so I think that they were trying to give him every chance to be able to knock Paxton down a little bit. He's getting some traction and they feel really good. So they feel good about Cornyn, but they also feel very good about themselves. They feel really good about their ability to play in a primary where there is a clear MAGA opponent. And so I think to a real extent, this is also the institutionalists looking at this hid in hand, probably with Mitch and other people, who are like, no. This is not going to happen. We're not going to replace Cornyn with Paxton. And so I think that is one of the ways that they look at this internally behind the scenes.
I do think that because Trump so much more visibly has control over Congress, it does eliminate some of the insurgent MAGA lane excitement, because there's not a scenario, even like it was in the first term, where you can say, "Oh, get rid of Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell's gone. He's not running the Senate anymore."
No, he's done.
John Thune got all of the nominees through. John Thune got the big, beautiful bill through. John Thune
did the work.
Did the stuff that Donald Trump says great things about John Thune. He says great things about Mike Johnson. So now the institution is not against MAGA in the way that it was in the first term, and certainly, obviously, during the 4 years in the wilderness after Biden won. So I don't know. I don't know if Paxton, a damaged MAGA true believer, has the same sway. And that's probably the point that Cornyn's making, is that it's like, hey, look, this is a winning team right now. Why are you going to swap a scandal-prone dude who can't, who's causing, more stuff for himself amongst a Republican-controlled, his own aides are the ones that brought the corruption charges against him. So it's like, do you think that that's going to be great in the Senate? Like, where they don't like that kind of drama?
Yes, like two things here. So number one, like Trump backs winners, right? So he's not going to endorse until he absolutely has to here. So he's not going to be the person who's going to help you win. He's going to be the person like Mariano Rivera who'll help you secure the win, right? Yeah. The other thing also is that Trump looks at this and says, well, how do you handle your stuff, right? Yeah. How do you handle your media firestorms? If you look at Pam Bondi, if you look at Patel, if you look at RFK and all the people, including the SecDef, I mean, you look at all these people who have had issues, he lets them kind of try to figure it out before he jumps in and says, no, they're going to stay. He lets, and so to this, I think he looks at Paxton and he says, you know what, you got a lot of stuff going on, boy, and go figure it out. And, if you could figure it out, maybe I'll endorse you, maybe I won't, but I'm not going to save you. I'm not in the business of saving people who can't save themselves. And so I think that he looks at this and he says, you know what, there's a lot of stuff going on there. There's probably more that's coming. He's probably even been told also what else could be coming, and is saying, you know what, I'm risk averse here. I'm president of the United States. The last thing I want to do is go out in my last midterms and endorse a guy who's going to get beat and in a high profile race.
Especially when this would be like, the
a big L.
I mean, a tide turner in terms of momentum. I mean, if you want any kind of excitement
narrative shifting
to rattle through the Democratic infrastructure, then talk about Senator James Tallarico. Like, that would be gigantic. That would be huge. That would be
Absolutely.
Doug Jones level excitement, probably more so, in fact.
Agreed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hard agree.
All right. Oh, let me also say this about Paxton. I think he's running a terrible race. I mean, if this is like he had a chance to put his boot on the neck of Cornyn, he didn't attack him on stuff. He's not up on television. He's also the Attorney General of Texas, sitting like there's a lot of stuff that's happening in Texas. We had a big fight about weed and edibles. There was obviously a lot of border stuff that's happening. Mm-hmm. He didn't do anything. He hasn't. Usually this is his thing, is he injects himself into the news cycle unnecessarily. He hasn't done it in a way that I thought, it's like, now's when you want to. If you want to compare and contrast, I'm the guy who does it. He's the guy who sits around. Do something. And he hasn't done anything. I think he's run, if this was an invisible primary, I think he has lost it. And I'm not shocked that this race is tightening.
Yeah, the other thing I would say too is that maybe he's just distracted personally. Like it feels like he's distracted personally. And the superpower that Trump has is he's never distracted personally.
No.
He shifts the attention to other things so well, and Paxton doesn't seem to have that. He has no ability to say, okay, hey man, my wife really hates me. Hey, let's talk about this. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about weed. Let's talk about all these other things. Let's spur up a culture war on something else. He's not jumping into all of the kinds of things that he could say at this point, even with Charlie Kirk. He'd say, hey, look, I met Charlie Kirk. There's a lot of great things about Charlie Kirk. Here's pictures of me and Charlie Kirk. Oh, by the way, we're going to go ahead and make it harder in Texas to be the murderers of Charlie Kirk. Here's 20 different ideas.
Here's 20 ideas to do it. Or crime. Right. I mean, like, look, that he's not going to go and overrule. I don't know. I mean, because there's a million different things.
Or he can go ahead and say, he can have a press conference tomorrow morning and say, I want President Trump to come to Austin. I want him to
send the National Guard to Austin.
Send in the guard. And he can do a walk around in Austin and say, we got to clean this place up. And we get these ruffians like Justin Robert Young off the streets.
Well, as long as I'll just make sure that we're living in his mistress's neighborhoods first, so he can clean those up, because that's going to be the first to get
that'll be the first place he cleans up. Yeah,
the first place he cleans up. Yeah.
All
right, let's take a jaunt from Texas all the way up to New England. Another big Senate fight with Maine, where you have another fascinating candidate recruitment primary. You got a couple upstarts on the left, one of them that's put together kind of a new lane, a new progressive, tell it like it is, populist lane. His team is half Zohran Mamdani people, half John Fetterman people. Very compelling ad. Seems like a nice enough guy. You got a beer entrepreneur that's running. But what the Senate Democrats really, really, really want is a 79-year-old.
God bless Maine. I really don't understand. And by the way, I love Maine. I've traveled to Maine. I absolutely love Maine. The Democratic Party can't get out of their own head there. They've had an opportunity to beat Susan Collins, half a dozen times. And seriously, she's going to be in the same box going to Cancun with Ted Cruz in that race. I mean, there's no way they're going to beat her with a 79-year-old man. I can't understand.
Woman, yeah.
Excuse me, woman. It's legitimately impossible to understand how this race is anything but a lean Democrat in a situation where, Mainers are not happy with how things are going. Mainers are also open to voting for Democrats. I mean, there's no good reason why this shadow primary doesn't somehow coalesce, except for the fact that they can't get out of their own way. And this is what happens actually in a lot of parties. It happens in Florida, where everybody thinks that they're white whale, they're going to win a governorship someday. I would say don't spend your money there. As long as, spend your money somewhere else. I wouldn't spend it in Texas either, but why not? I mean, hey, let's have that fight. I'm all for democracy and spending money on campaigns. But beyond that, I think when you look at Maine, unless Susan Collins is effectively challenged by someone who's younger, there's no issue there. And, when you looked at, for example, Trump, when he was running, he was very, very concerned about a younger candidate coming after him. And instead you got Joe Biden, and we also had that happen. It didn't really work out very well. So if you're going to channel, these kinds of campaigns, you need to go at them generationally. And I think, like what you're saying, Mamdani's people are actually very, very good at what they're doing, regardless of the politics and what I believe, is going to be a problem for New York City. I was just there this week. But those people actually know how to run a campaign. They understand what they're doing.
They have pitched a perfect game, as far as I'm considered, to be able to get a guy like that with no history to highlight all of his strengths and mitigate all of his weaknesses, while also having pretty extreme positions in a city where, like, despite the fact that they hate the mayor, it's better. People in general, the New Yorkers in my life, say that it's been better over the past 4 years. Like, that's kind of nuts. Like, I was on the ground. A great job.
Yeah. I was in New York, I guess Sunday and Monday, and walking around, and I have to say it was better. Like, it actually was better. And I grew up around New York, and so I went through all of the 1970s, where it was like really scary in Times Square, to when Giuliani cleaned up the place, and then where it went back and forth and stuff. And, they hate Adams, but then again, they also hated Ed Koch. They hate every mayor. New Yorkers traditionally just hate their mayors, except for after 9/11, they loved Giuliani for a little while, until Giuliani got himself, tied up with Trump. But and they'll hate Mamdani too. I mean, it's just at this point.
Eventually.
I guess we should. Yeah, eventually. Yeah, I mean, they like him now.
Well, let's go. All right, so Maine.
Yeah. Maine.
Look, the Democrats are going to
Maine until they get their heads out of their asses. It's probably not even worth talking about.
Yeah,
to be honest.
Exactly.
I mean, I
do think it is worth watching to see whether or not a grassroots populist Democratic candidate does have a lane, the Fetterman-Mamdani lane.
Yeah.
Whether or not that exists. I'm watching that primary as a test case for that. I don't really think that it's going to matter against Susan Collins, who will remain bipartisan and concerned about everything while being a reliable Republican vote when she needs to be.
Yeah, Susan Collins, in parentheses, C for concerned.
Concerned.
Yeah, just constantly.
Well, I don't know. Is he? It's her and Murkowski that are always concerned, or the other one. But they are both. They're constantly aggrieved about a thing that's happening because they have to win a state that's more liberal than they are.
Exactly.
But let's go down to the city that never sleeps, because if there is one reality show that I wish I could watch every single week, it would be going between the campaigns of Zohran Mamdani, which again, I think is pitching the perfect game. They are doing fantastic. From an electoral perspective, I know that there's a lot of people listening that believe this is the fall of Rome by electing somebody like Mamdani. But if you just look at the X's and O's, which is what we do here, you can't argue with results. They've done a fantastic job. And then you got the rest. You've got sitting mayor Eric Adams, who never met a transaction he didn't like if it cashed out well for him. You've got Curtis Sliwa, who still baffles me that this is the best that can be found for New York Republic. You're telling me there's no crypto guys that want to run and I know. Can fund their own campaign. And then, of course, disgraced former governor Andrew Cuomo, who is the hope for centrists against Mamdani, despite the fact that he already lost against him in the Democratic primary that he was heavily favored in.
Yeah.
Right now, the whispers are that Eric Adams is going to drop out this week. Yeah. Whenever the whispers get loud, Eric Adams loudly says in a bassy voice, absolutely not. Yeah. Cuomo's a scumbag and I will never drop out to help him.
Right.
What is happening?
Eric Adams is delusional. I mean, if you look at the polling, he's polling in the mid single digits, and that's being the most. All right, so the latest poll that I see over here from the New York Times, YouGov tracker for this thing, sponsored with CBS, which is essentially going to be a MAGA mainstream media fairly soon. So watch that one. Eric Adams at 6%. Sliwa is at 15%. Okay, he's an actual Republican.
Yeah.
Cuomo, who you referenced before, is a slimeball. and then Mamdani.
He's not perverted. He's just Italian. Make sure that we clarify that for the Paisan.
Yeah, he's perverted. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, look, the Italians are not. Yeah, that
all perverts.
No,
not hashtag not all Italians.
No perverts either. I don't know. I mean, Andrew Cuomo is pretty bad. So I think Zoran
what is he polling at in that latest poll?
He's at 28. He's vacillating in the mid to high 20s, but Zoran is in the mid 40s, and he's got a 4-person field. Even if like Eric Adams dropped out tomorrow morning and had a kumbaya with Andrew Cuomo, he doesn't make a difference. He's 6%, so he gets Cuomo to 35. Right?
He would need both for it to be competitive. He would need for it to be a one-on-one. Sliwa would have to drop out, and Adams would have to drop out.
And feels like Sliwa won't do it. Feels like Eric Adams understands that he doesn't have enough to make a difference to be a kingmaker. If you can't be a kingmaker, why get out? And so when you're looking at this just strategically, if I'm on Eric Adams' team, I say, hey, you've done great. Like, the city's better, right?
Yeah.
And so you could walk out of here, get beat. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with losing, right? But there is something wrong with endorsing Andrew Cuomo. That's going to stay with you, right? Losing a race is one thing, but endorsing Andrew bleeping Cuomo, who you hate, and you hate politically, you hate personally, you hate everything about this guy. He represents everything you hate about everything. The idea that you're going to do this is going to somehow make a difference. It won't. So why do it, right? So take your 6% and go home, get beat, and then damn the torpedoes and laugh at Mamdani, after a year after he's opened, these citywide grocery stores and nobody goes to them, right? And other things, and just say, look, I was right. So you'd rather be the guy who was right, who just got beat, than the guy who endorses a scumbag and still got beat, right?
So he would. So you're saying, all right, take your lumps, be right,
take the loss.
Get your Fox News contract, and be the guy who trashes Mamdani on television.
Right. Because if you go ahead and endorse Andrew Cuomo, you're not getting the Fox contract. You're not getting all the other kinds of things that you think that you might want to get. If you go ahead and endorse Andrew Cuomo, you'll never get a job in the administration. You'll never get all the other things that you think that you're entitled to. So this becomes about not winning a race. It becomes about your own brand equity. And Eric Adams is looking at this saying, okay, what am I going to do next? I could be the guy who cleaned up New York, and then I can go and have a podcast. I can do a whole bunch of things, right? And so the world is open to me because I didn't do a bad job at my job. I just got beat by a force of nature, which was this generational talent in Zoran. And I am I'm not going to give my votes to Andrew freaking Cuomo. Forget it, man. This is New York. We don't do that. And Curtis Sliwa, whatever.
Yeah, before we get to Sliwa, let me talk about Adams.
Sure.
I see your point. I'm going to give you a counterpoint.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's one thing that Eric Adams really, really, really likes. It's dollars and cents. So everything that you just said, okay, he gets to be right. He gets to do that. Let's say he gets that contract. What are we really looking at? We're looking at 6 figures. Maybe he gets up to $250,000 so he can fake laugh at Brian Kilmeade's jokes. Like, let's say it's something around there, right? He does a podcast. I know what podcast money looks like. Maybe that's $1 million.
Couple extra bucks. Right. Yeah.
Right.
Oh, you think he wants big money?
The rumor is to get him out of this race, the Trump administration, who, by the way, the Republican Party could not be more excited for the mayoral reign of Zohran Mamdani, because they very much want things to be going wrong by the time that the midterms roll around. So everybody that's endorsing Mamdani right now, they can put in ads in scary red tint for the next 6 months leading up to the midterms. The Republican Party
for you. Yep.
Yes. The Democrats have surrendered to the communists.
Watch what's going on in Maine. Yes, Maine. You thought Maine was nice? Maine's not going to be nice anymore because Mamdani's guys are going up there to win a race.
Party, you are going to have to surrender your lobsters to the state.
Because they've already destroyed Pelosi to the point where they can't use her anymore. She's not even in office. And Jeffries is basically a vanilla version of a non-factor of anything. I mean, he doesn't say anything. He never does anything. So they need a goon. why not have, Goon Squad, Zoran?
But Trump is friends with a lot of people in New York City, a lot of people that have his number that are probably blowing him up every single day saying, this is crazy. I don't want to sell my, I don't want to sell my penthouse in this market. This is terrible. You got to do something. You got to do something. So the rumor is that Eric Adams, for the price of getting out of this race, congratulations. We're going to put you in a diplomatic position where you can meet a lot of people, that you can make a lot of money. How would you like to be in the ambassador's office of Saudi Arabia? You can't walk out of Riyadh without having a bunch of money jump into your pockets. And we're not talking about $250,000. $250,000 is your espresso. Like that's what you get just for talking.
That's Monday morning. Yeah.
That's Monday morning. You're talking big generational dollars. Now, what would be the problem with that? The problem with that is that theoretically he would have to get confirmed by the Senate, which has a 60 vote threshold. Except today, they are going to change the rules on that because the Democrats are blocking it. So they're going to change this to simple majority.
They're not going to call it the nuclear option. They're going to call it the Eric Adams bomb.
Well, I think that's when it's like, oh, he hasn't dropped out. He hasn't dropped out. He hasn't dropped out.
Oh,
I think he's transactional enough that he's like, I'm not doing it until it's on the schedule.
Until it's 51.
It's on the schedule to have it happen.
Yeah.
You want to know what? I'll even say, I hate Cuomo, but he's better than what Mamdani will do to this city. See you in Riyadh. I'm going to be putting with Tiger Woods for, the 13th birthday party of the third most powerful sheik's cousin, because that's where I'm going to be.
It also solves his personal problem, which is he doesn't want to be in New York while Mamdani is there.
Yeah.
He wants to get out of Dodge. And so what's the exact opposite of living in New York? Riyadh.
Yeah. Now,
where he will be treated like a king. Because
he'll get along great over there. Oh my God. He's going to be,
don't forget, Trump is really transactional.
Mm-hmm.
So is Eric. They're also New Yorkers. New Yorkers can be very transactional.
Find a price.
Let's cut the deal, right?
Let's cut a deal.
Yeah. So anyway,
now,
my point is
that
there's no reason for him to stick around in this race unless he gets paid.
The problem is Sliwa, because Curtis Sliwa lives with 50 cats. He is not going to drop. I don't think that there's a position in the Trump administration that he would want.
No, and all of his cats vote.
I know.
It's really important.
It is New York City. You never know.
Yeah.
They might be Tammany Hall cats, but
they're Tammany Hall cats. Yeah.
I don't think there's a way to get him out unless there is tremendous pressure on Sliwa, and I don't think that he would bend.
They don't need the number at that point. Then it's a 3-person race, and Eric Adams, at worst it goes to Cuomo. He's at 35. It's 43-45. Probably closes somewhere around in the high 40s for Zoran. He might even get a majority if he debates Cuomo and blows him up.
Yeah.
There is no world right now in which Mamdani is in serious danger here, whether it's the status quo
if I were Mamdani, I wouldn't debate. Well, why would I debate? Like when I can put up 50 awesome, slick ads about how awesome and cool I am. Like, no, stop it. Like,
actually, I mean, it's also New York, and New York really respects a fighter. And so I think that he will probably do one and done, probably on WPIX at about 2 a.m. right before what used to be on WPIX when I was a kid, which was basically Breakout, with with like 10 pixels per line, Yeah. I think, and then he'll get, Cuomo will get a couple zingers in, but so will Mamdani and say, hey, by the way, how many of your staffers, are suing you right now?
He's quick.
Yeah.
He's quick. He'll say, hey, do you know how to pronounce my name now? Like there's a lot. He can be cool. He doesn't have to really engage all that much. He can be above it because right now he's the the leader in the clubhouse. So
Yeah, so I don't think it's really I mean, obviously Cuomo would want to debate, but honestly, the more you see Cuomo, the more you don't like Cuomo, right? So it's not like Cuomo is like holding back a reservoir of goodwill that he can't wait to unleash on Mamdani. Like what he's really doing right now is it's haymakers. So I think to a real extent, Eric Adams, whether he's in Riyadh, whether he's on Fox News, or whether he's on Fox News from Riyadh, there's a number of different permutations of this that Eric Adams can stay in until he's bought out.
Cuomo, boy, I'll just say this: when he comes out and slams Netanyahu and says that the war in Gaza must end, not exactly dealing from a position of strength. Noted Palestine advocate Andrew Cuomo coming out and making his opinions clear does not say to me, boy, am I confident about my centrist campaign. It says I am desperate and I am I'm one stop short of pretending that I had a rap career in my 20s, like Mamdani did. You are just trying to be like the kids.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's really sad. It's like, hey kids, putting on the backwards hat.
Yeah.
How you do?
How do you do, fellow kids?
How do you do, fellow kids? Exactly. One more line from New York. We can, I guess, move on to the other one that you want to talk about, which was as I'm walking through Times Square or to Times Square from my hotel with a friend of mine. There's a bunch of food trucks everywhere, right? It's New York, and you can buy anything from a hot dog to whatever.
Yep.
There's a huge line waiting for a food truck as we're walking through. It's for a halal food truck. And there are visibly Muslim people lined up literally for an entire city block. It must have been like 200 people waiting for a food truck in New York where you can get great food anywhere you stumble into. Yeah. Right?
Including great food trucks.
Including great food trucks. And it says to you that, hey, you know what? It's not just a bunch of Jewish people in that city. There are it's an international city. Yeah. And so, when you look at the rise of Mamdani, I mean, there's a group of people there who are really excited, and truly excited that one of their own is going to be the next mayor. And honestly, I get it. I get it. When Ed Koch, when I was a kid, he's a Jewish guy, became mayor, like that was a point of pride. Same thing for the Arab community, same thing for the Muslim community. And so I think that there's a lot of that going on that's cross-cultural and cross-religion. And I think that he is somehow captured a lightning in a bottle, in that race. And by all accounts, this is a done deal, but the rest of it is interesting to follow. It's more interesting to follow than what's going on in Maine.
I would subscribe to the reality show. I would love to see them bouncing in between what is happening with those campaigns, because holy smokes, a lot of characters involved.
Absolutely. And very interesting and flawed and hilarious characters all the way through. Yeah. Amazing.
One last topic that I wanted to bring up with you, and that was the North Carolina Senate race, which is Roy Cooper on the Democratic side and Michael Whatley on the Republican side. And partly, I wanted to just get your perspective. Michael Whatley is somebody that most recently ran the Republican Party. He ran the Republican Party in North Carolina. Yeah. He's somebody that knows that state about as well as anybody is going to know that state from a practitioner's point of view. But there's a difference between the guy who organizes the campaign and the guy who's in front of the microphone. So we can talk about Whatley specifically if you'd like, but just give me, from your perspective, being a part of campaigns, what is that strata? What is that difference that somebody who's a great campaign organizer, a great campaign manager has that a candidate doesn't, and vice versa?
Yeah, it's basically the difference between having a great COO and a great CEO. This is like the difference between having Steve Jobs leading Apple and Tim Cook leading Apple, right?
Yeah.
With Tim Cook, it's very much focused on metrics and, making sure that you are executing a plan, and it's very disciplined and all of that, but there's no oratory there, right?
Yeah.
And with Steve Jobs, you get oratory. And you get sort of the person who connects with people, who really is able to tell a story
that people are investing in. Yeah.
Right. He's able to tell a story, who understands what it's like to talk to people, as opposed to making sure that the advanced people on a campaign are there on time so that, the speakers are pointing in the right direction to the crowd. Like these are the nuts and bolts of a campaign that is just so different. I mean, I look at this and I also look at like a Nikki Fried, like in Florida, she now leads the Democratic Party in Florida and ran for governor. She was too technical about what she was doing, to be too cute by half to really come up with a really big message for the state. And I feel like that this is the situation now in North Carolina where, they know Roy Cooper. They voted for Roy Cooper. He's the guy who they know and feel comfortable with. He's the Democrat who could win this, sort of crossover state that's trending Republican. And so I think that the difference between these two candidates is one who is used to being in front of the crowd, whereas someone who, the Democrat is more used to being behind the scenes and figuring out what the messaging should be and all that, but not necessarily coming out of your mouth, because it's very different when you come up with messaging and stuff like that, and you come up with all the planning that goes into a campaign. But being the person who has to stand up there and interact with actual human beings is a totally different skill set. And so, I wrote about, political campaigns, and I've been immersed with, consultants and the people who actually run campaigns. You don't want these people on the stump. Okay, they're brilliant, they're smart, they're very good at what they do, but they don't connect with people in the way that politicians do. Politicians need to actually talk to people, whereas consultants don't have that internal need. They are there to put together a plan, next project, right?
They're obsessing about very, very different. They're obsessing about voter registration in this sub county of a county that they think is a bellwether for where they need to be, and they need to get to their vote share targets. Like that's what when they wake up, that's what's panicking them in the middle of the night. Not, hey, did I say the right thing to this person? Like, I need to make sure that I go out and meet 50 more people so I can greet them and find out what they think.
Yeah, and it's very much a feel kind of business. Like, what kind of feedback am I getting from the crowd? What kind of interactions am I having with people? I really thought that this would go differently. I wonder why that didn't go differently. Or this came out of nowhere. This guy has a great story. I want to bring that person on stage. Or, what other groups of people do I need to get in front of so I can make my case? I mean, it's a very persuasive kind of job. It's a very, interactive kind of job running for office. It's not what we do, which is basically like taking a step back from the campaign intentionally to look at it so that we can show the candidate the mirror of what's going on, because the candidates are personally, viscerally invested in it. Now, I understand what it's like. I mean, I've always talked with consultants. They all feel like that they can outdo their bosses on the job. They always feel like that they can do a better job, delivering the message, but it also sometimes just looks strangely weird. Like, consultants are so used to talking to each other and then talking to their clients and being deferential and also bringing them along, as opposed to leadership, which is actually in front of people and then bringing them along, in a person-to-person kind of manner. And I think that it's two different skills. And if you're going to bottom line it, it's basically the difference between being a COO and being a CEO. And those things are not interchangeable.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that it's going to be a very interesting race. You had a few things, the grim parts of this business are that big stories aren't always good news, and some of them do tell a story that are advantageous to one party versus the other. So the violent murder of a Ukrainian refugee in North Carolina is something that does play into the hands of Republicans, who obviously are currently running on a tough on crime national platform, but also Roy Cooper was the attorney general, and he was the governor while this guy was in and out of jail. That's going to be hung on him. The question that I have is, while I do think that Michael, exactly. While I do think that Michael Whatley is somebody that is more charismatic than the average person in his position.
Yeah.
I don't know what that looks like every day, right? There was a lot of people, to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars, that thought that Ron DeSantis' speeches and Ron DeSantis' television appearances would translate to retail politics outside of Florida. Spoiler alert, it didn't at all whatsoever. Yeah. I wonder whether or not for Michael Whatley that is going to be a similar situation, or maybe he's been a candidate trapped in a consultant's body the entire time, and this is the moment where things come out, or at least enough to win in North Carolina, which is a Republican leaning state and has disappointed on the Senate level Democrats over and over and over and over again. Because this is my understanding of North Carolina. The reason why I would still put Whatley with a pretty good chance is that the polling in North Carolina is D plus 5, D plus 5, D plus 5, D plus 5 until the final month when it's the first week D plus 3 and then D plus 2 and then D plus 1 and then the Republican wins by 3 every single time. That's what has happened every time that there's a statewide Senate race in that state for whatever reason. I don't know why Republicans close so strong. I don't know whether it's tough to poll Republicans in North Carolina or whatever, but that always seems to be the case. And so if that's the environment, who knows?
Yeah, and you never know. I mean, it really comes down to are Trump voters going to show up for Whatley, right?
Yeah.
And, in an off-year election, I feel like the answer is probably not as many as he needs. But there's no reason why this isn't a toss-up race. I mean, this is a fairly toss-up race. And let's face it, Roy Cooper, he's the guy but he's not like some kind of incredible orator. He's not some kind of like bolt of lightning like, Zohan or something like that. No. I mean, this is not somebody who everyone can't wait to go ahead and vote for. This is the guy when they go on the ballot, they're like, oh yeah, I know that guy, right?
He's Matlock. He's his best attribute is he's likable enough to Republicans that he can win an election as a Democrat.
And non-offensive enough, right?
Yeah.
But we'll see. We'll see what happens. I think this is actually one of the most interesting races in the whole deal here, and definitely one to watch. I think that Roy Cooper, when I was looking at his stuff for governor, I actually have this for my digital political strategy course that I teach over at Hopkins. We actually show like what websites look like, in different campaigns. His campaign website for governor was terrible. Like terrible. Like
this is
it was
Roy
just
Cooper's website.
Roy Cooper's. Yeah, I'll send it to you. It was a picture of Roy Cooper looking like the Marlboro Man.
Yeah.
In a suit, but just looking vacant. And the website didn't have you do anything.
Just gaze upon Roy Cooper.
I am gazing upon my minions, and I call them North Carolinians. Like there was just nothing there that was interesting. There was nothing about what he was going to do for the state. There was nothing about what he's done for the state. There was no volunteer thing. It was hard to find the donate button. There was literally like a page that could have been designed, in Mosaic browser, a long time ago. And you're just going, what's going on here? And then you look at everything that Mondami or other people were doing, these modern websites,
very
and you're
dynamic.
Just like, wow, very dynamic, very interesting, always being updated, a lot of energy there. And I think that may be just him. He just may not be a very dynamic guy, but he may find himself in a very dynamic race. And he may end up having to have a very strong wake-up call in a couple of months when he realizes that, that +5 is now down to +1, down to 0, down to, we're still within the margin of error, down to, what's going on right here? Why are we losing? Yeah, this is one that easily could get away from Roy Cooper. I'm not convinced that he's probably the best candidate for them, but I'm not convinced that he is somebody who's going to run away with
slam dunk.
No
candidate.
way.
Yeah.
No way. Yeah.
One last thing on the way out the door.
Sure.
A lot of conversation that looks like it's definitely going to happen, that at least on the Republican side, we're going to get a midterm convention, a very big nationalization of the race for what will be Donald Trump's final test at the ballot box, a reflection of Donald Trump at the ballot box. I'll just ask it like this. If you are a Republican practitioner, Donald Trump just announces by fiat, we're doing a midterm convention. It's going to be multiple nights, and it's going to be all the pomp and circumstance that we do for the presidential. I'm going to speak, once a night. We're going to have all of our big heroes out there. We're going to really, really pull up the tent, but it's going to look very Trumpy. Are you excited? Are you terrified? What are your feelings on the Republican side?
A handful are going to be terrified, but the rest of them are going to be excited. That's what's going to happen. I
think it's a huge net benefit. Like there's been some.
Yeah. Let me give you why it's a net benefit.
Go.
Every single Republican who's running is saying, well, when Trump is not on the ballot, we get fewer votes.
Yes.
We need Trump on the ballot. So Trump is inserting himself on the ballot by running a convention. This is what he's doing. It's a brilliant idea, knowing that you're not going to be able to hide. Why hide? Go all in, right?
Yeah.
Trump doesn't hide. He goes all in. So instead of saying, we're just going to let the redistricting, we're just going to let these districts beat us, screw it. We're going to go and redistrict. What else are we going to do? We're going to have a big kumbaya where I'm going to be right there every night, and I'm going to give the big speech at the end. And you bet it's going to be MAGA, because the party is MAGA, and it's going to be a summation of all the reasons why we got a majority 2 years ago. Absolutely. Yeah. This is the only play that you would do. And I think it's actually really great practice by the team. It's a great idea. Now, Democrats will say, cool, this is great. Trump will be on the ballot again.
Trump's on the ballot.
Right.
They love when Trump's on the ballot.
They love when Trump's on the ballot, except when they don't, because they lost the last election, and they lost both houses of Congress. So from my perspective, this actually works really well for everybody, right? Except for maybe the frontline Republicans who are saying, oh, that's really going to hurt me.
Susan
so maybe
Collins
they don't go.
Probably might find another
It'll be
thing
concerning. It'll be concerning to Susan Collins.
She'll figure out, no, I'm going to skip it. But also she'll get credit. She'll get credit for skipping it with her,
of course,
with her voters.
Yeah. Right. That's what I'm saying. This is good for business. Okay. Yeah. This is good for you. This is good for them. This is good for the people that, want to separate. You say, well, I'm not going to that convention. I'm going to be focusing on my district or my state. Right. That's whatever the national party is going to do. That's fine. I'm for Maine. Right. That's my brand as Susan Collins, instead of just being concerned. I'm only concerned about Maine.
Let's cross the aisle, because this idea was initially a Democratic idea that they floated. The idea that, hey, we need a reboot. We need to reintroduce ourselves to the nation. Congratulations, America. Meet the brand new Democratic Party. If you are a Democrat, are you excited or terrified about this?
Depends on what kind of Democrat you are. I mean, if you are a mainstream... If you're a mainstream Democrat, you're absolutely terrified, because you don't think for a second that Mondami is not going to give a speech that's going to be worthy.
He's a keynote.
Not only is he the keynote, he may be the keynote. They're going to be talking about him running for president someday after he gives that speech, right? Don't forget Barack Obama.
He's from Uganda.
Well, okay. Well, they're going to want to change the rules.
This one's actually from Africa, unlike Obama.
They're going to want to change the rules, but they're going to want him doing something bigger, right? I mean, you know what I mean? They're going to be like, that's the new superstar. We are so far in. People gave him a bad rap. He gave this beautiful Obama-esque kind of speech about, it's not red America, it's not blue America, it's Mondami America, Mandama America, whatever you want to call it.
Mandama America, yeah.
Mandama America, yeah. But this is good for everyone except for frontline Democrats who are saying, first of all, Abigail Spanberger, not going to be there. Nobody who's running for a tough race will be there, but it'll be great for Democrats, because they'll think that they have somehow rebranded into this young, dynamic party, and then they'll realize, probably in a couple of years when they lose again, that socialism is not exactly what people want in America. You're never going to get to 50+1 here. But they're going to try. Again, this is a rope-a-dope almost by the Republicans to get them to go and do one of these. Because if they do one of these, that's must-see TV. If I'm the GOP, I actually turn my YouTube over to them.
Just co-stream it.
Yes.
No commentary. We're just going to run C-SPAN.
Yeah. We're going to run Mondami's speech over and over and over and over again. We're going to post it today, tomorrow, the next day. And then eventually we'll get around to commentary. But just see what this is, America. This is the massive rebrand, the move to the center that that Trotsky would have loved. So it'd be great.
The Trotsky trot. Here is what I would worry about from a organizational perspective on the Democratic side. There's no leader right now. There's no elder statesman of the party that anybody listens to. And so if you're going to create a gigantic media spectacle, guess what it's actually going to wind up being? A lot of Gavin Newsom, a lot of J.B. Pritzker, a lot of Andy Beshear, a lot of people that are running for president. They are going to hijack this to be a presidential midterm primary when that's not what you want. What you want is to make heroes of the people that are on the ballot. Let them get the shine. And I don't know if there's anybody in the party. Nobody listens to Bill Clinton. Nobody listens to Obama anymore. That's going to be able to say, guys, no. Gavin, hit him with the spray bottle. Down. You don't get the primetime slot.
Right,
Abigail Spanberger gets the primetime slot.
Right. Yeah. The other thing I would say too is that all the people who were somehow iced out of the last one, including the Free Palestine people, are going to be like, this is my time. This is my time. Yes. And so if you're on the other side of that issue as I am, you're going to look at that and go, okay, it was there all along. They just unmasked themselves, and now what am I? Right? Now I'm open for business on who I'll vote for. And so I think that there'll be a lot of like mini issues like that. There'll be a Green New Deal person. There'll be all the kinds of things that you think Democrats are. They will then lean into, because like you're saying, there's no centrifugal force here anymore. There's no reason for this other than you just want equal time, right? And so you will get your equal time, and then you will use it poorly. So it's going to be, and by the way, I mean, Biden will not be seen, no way. And
oh my God,
Kamala Harris.
No.
And Harris, I can't imagine her speech unless she's decided to run for president. This could be the relaunch for Kamala 2.0 or Kamala 107.0. Which is what the name.
No, they are both going to be mentioned about as often as somebody who banged Stalin's wife in front of him. Like, they will be absolutely thrown in the memory hole and forgotten because that is. They are persona non grata, especially Kamala writing her book and throwing Biden under the bus now.
Rolling,
like, really?
He's literally dying of cancer, and she's rolling over him with a bus. It's amazing.
You're like, there was a time where this would have been very interesting if you would have said this at a time that it could have totally changed a lot of stuff. But
I know.
Now with the book, okay, interesting.
I love that I've come to believe that he should not have run. What do you mean?
Come on.
You woke up. She's woken up every day for the past 5 years saying that he shouldn't run, but she's come to believe that he shouldn't run. And don't forget, I mean, Kamala Harris was the girl on the bus, and now she's driving the bus and rolling over Biden back and forth. Game
Joe,
over.
Those tire prints on the back of your suit? That little girl was me. That little girl was me.
Right. Those tire tracks were mine. Yeah.
Mine.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Michael Cohen, Modern Political Campaigns, available right now. Soon on Audible.
Yes.
As
coming
read
soon.
by me.
In air quotes. Yes.
Soon.
The great Justin Robert Young. I can't.
It happens very like it suddenly, not quickly, suddenly. Like one day you'll just get an email and you're like, hey, it's available now, and that'll be that.
Amazing.
Michael, thank you so much.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it.
And that'll wrap it up for us today. Politics, written and hosted by me, Justin Robert Young, for Dog and Pony Show Audio in Austin, Texas. Send me an email, theyoungamerican@gmail.com. In fact, you want to know what? Send me an email. Comment on Substack. Comment on this YouTube. How out of pocket am I with this Jimmy Kimmel take? Because I think it's a reasonable, nuanced take, but I was getting roasted on Twitter when I was putting this out last night. So the Twitter crowd is not the same as the Substack crowd. It's not the same as the email crowd. It's not the same as the YouTube crowd. Let me know. I want to know from all of you because I want to keep my constituencies intact. I love all my Twitter people. I love all my email people. I love my YouTube people. Bring it on in. Bring it on in. You cannot hurt my feelings. And just take all this information stoically, just put it, just like it just phases into my body and I just absorb it. I just like look at myself in the mirror and go, and I just clarify it. That's what I do every single day. Find, follow, and share clips of the show. TikTok, Justin R. Young. Twitter, Justin R. Young. YouTube, along with full videos of the show and all of my television appearances. Politics. You can support us, paypal.me/payjury. Venmo is Justin-Young-20. Cash App, PX3 Cash. You can send me anything you'd like in the mail, Post Office Box 153184, Austin, Texas 78715. The only way you get our bonus episodes of the show is takepoliticsseriously.com. Sign up. It's basically $3 a week. Buy me a cup of coffee once a week. If I were commuting with you once a week and you were going to just be, fine, I'll buy a cup of coffee. You get 2 bonus episodes each and every week. And cheaper than that if you go annual. $99. Come on, man. Jeez. But of course, it is our founding tier that gets their name read at the end of the program, including Sonny Black, L3PO, Peepaw, Scott, Middle-Aged Mike, Tom, Sarah Jeannie, Jeremy, Pro Idiot, Chiller Tomatoes. Oh yeah, it's Adam, Neil, AB Puppy, Dr. Whiskey, Michael, Fat Tony's PJs from New York, Will, The Borge B, Matthew, Matt, Andrew, Edwin, Sam, Andrew, Phil, Edison, Devon, Paul, a dog named Checkers, Gloria, Jerry, Trucker, John, Berkeley, Steven, and Zombie Doc. If you'd like your name read on the show, come on down. Sign up. Remember to email me, write in the comments who you want to see on the show. I'm reaching out to people as it comes in. I'm trying, as soon as I see it, I reach out. It double helps if you email us both, if they've never been on the show. But if you just like somebody, like for example, Brandon Herrera, the AK guy, he's been recommended for this show for months, reached out to him today. Will he come on? I don't know. That's up to Brandon Herrera. I just want to let you know I'm working for you. I'm working for you. We'll see you next week. Till then, this is your old pal, Justin Robert Young, saying some shows talk about politics, others talk about politics, still more discuss politics, but this is the only show that dares discuss. Oh, 3.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.
Dog and Pony Show audio.
Come on. Come on, baby bean. Hi. 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 America, baby. America, baby. You're a baby and you represent America. Look at that. Hey. Do you want to give me the hat? Thank you. Boop. Okay, that'll be it.